All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is April 20th. We got ourselves a Saturday and a jam-packed MLB slate to dive into today. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games on the slate. I'll give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, all of my final plays, if you do want to fade me and do the opposite, all of my final plays are going to be in the pinned comment of this video. So make sure to keep an eye on that. In terms of last night's final plays, we finally, after what, 3 bloodbath type days where we were battling just to stay alive, we have a positive night. We go 3-2 last night. Shout out to Mackenzie Gore, Justin Verlander, and then especially the Brewers, who were up 1-0 for pretty much the entire game. Gets tied up in the 9th, and I'm like, oh my god, here we go. Here's the Ev Jinx, right? And they end up winning it in the 10th. So you know what? We'll take the cha-ching. Shout out to the Brewers there. In terms of our daily dinger, we have a shout out to give to my man Mark here, who's also a channel member. Shout out to Mark. Cashes the Ellie De La Cruz daily dinger. If you guys want to know what the daily dinger is or don't know what it is, all you have to use is hashtag daily dinger in the comments and list someone that you think is going to hit a home run, and then come tomorrow's video, I'll find someone that got it right at random and give you a shout out. So go ahead and use that hashtag daily dinger. Just a simple way to potentially get shouted out in the video, just like Mark did today. Shout out to you, Mark. Now, before we get into today's slate, I want to give a quick shout out to Prize Picks here. I know this is a baseball video, but they have an awesome Jokic free square right now. So if Prize Picks is available in your state and you're not on it yet, today's probably the day to sign up and do so. You got MLB firing, the NHL's going, we got NBA playoffs. Like, guys, go check out Prize Picks. That link is in the pinned comment. You'll get your first deposit 100% matched. That's a no-brainer move in and of itself. And right now, you get this Jokic free square. So go ahead and check it out. Check out Prize Picks. Link is going to be in the pinned comment. All right, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. That like button's your bookie and he owes you money, all right? So why don't you go over there, boom, start some dominance and hit him. Hit that like button. We got the Yanks taking on the Tampa Bay Rays in game number 1 here. We have Nestor Cortez on the mound for the Yankees going up against Zach Eflin. Both of these guys, their numbers kind of tell like weird stories here. Overall, you know, they've only had one good start. Eflin's really being against his most recent start against the Angels, and then Cortez's only great start of the year was against Miami. Yeah, puke, I know. So both these pitchers are a little bit of wild cards here, in my opinion. So I'd say the pitching edge, really, I wouldn't want to toss it to either side here. But what I would say is that this Yankees bullpen should be in a far better place than this Tampa Bay bullpen, regardless of who's gone, who's healthy, anything like that. I think Holmes and Hamilton pitched for the Yankees yesterday, but this Tampa Bay team, I think 3 arms came out of the bullpen as well. So even if this Tampa Bay team was healthy and the Yankees were slightly taxed, we know where the bullpens lie. In fact, let's look at the dashboard. The free dashboard that we have built here on the channel. If you guys want to check this out, link is going to be in the pinned comment as well. Each and every game broken out, and we have some new stuff in here as well, like the pitcher mix, as well as the batting against that in terms of runs above average per 100 pitches seen of those. So pretty damn cool stuff we're adding in here each and every day. It's completely free right now to everyone. At some point, I think we might make it available only to the ballers, the $2.99 supporters every month on the channel. But for now, free to everyone. Go check it out. Link in the pinned comment. But yeah, you can see down here the bullpen edge, right? Greened out for the Yanks. And then the batting just doesn't even compare. You have a mix of sort of mid to bad in terms of Tampa Bay, and the Yankees here just cruising at high altitudes there with green. So I think that that's going to be what makes me want to lean towards the Yankees. Maybe it is some sort of first 5 play just because they are going to be potentially without their closer and setup man. And you could probably get a decent look at the Yankees minus a half a run in the first 5. So first 5 run line, right? So I might consider something like that. In terms of the total here, this Yankees team should be able to put up a decent amount of runs against Eflin. He's had some success against them in the past, but also has had some rough starts against them in the past. And yesterday's game, they put up 5 runs, right? So as long as Tampa Bay potentially, you know, and again, Cortez is on the mound today, maybe they can put up some. We get to 9 runs in today's spot, because yesterday's game was a 5-3 finish. So yeah, I'll go ahead and lean towards the over in this spot, but I think I like Yankees first 5 run line. Probably a hell of a lot more. Maybe just Yankees first 5 money line if we want that push potential to be considered, right? Then in terms of a player prop, Curtis Mead over 0.5 hits for -135 on FanDuel seems like a good spot here. It's actually -170 average on most sports books, and he's going up against Nestor Cortez, a lefty today, right? Him on the season, he's got 224 average. Oh, that's not that great, right? 316 average against lefties on the year, 50% hard hit rate. His WRC plus literally doubles when he's facing a lefty, so it could be a good spot to pull the trigger on him. But I will say, if you can't get it on FanDuel or for odds right around that -135, -140, I don't think I'd pay the juice. So this is definitely more of an expected value play that just happens to line up with the trend as well. All right, next up, we have Minnesota taking on Detroit. I'm not going to lie to you guys, this line here kind of puzzles me. Right now, Minnesota favored at -130, Detroit +110. Reese Olson on the mound here, who has had a decent year except for one start against Pittsburgh, going up against Bailey Ober, who also has had a decent year except for one start. But I don't know if the pitching discrepancy is that crazy between the two that Ober would be skewing this so heavily. So I think I'm going to look at the underdog here in Detroit. Now their bullpen, both these bullpens are phenomenal, but I do think that Detroit's bullpen is a little taxed. Closer went yesterday, Foley up, and then Chaffin went yesterday, and then just overall, they've had a few guys that have pitched a lot as of late. So maybe this is the first 5 type of play or something like that. But yeah, overall, I'm a little shocked. It's almost like maybe this is a trap. Kind of smells like one, right? So maybe Minnesota's the play, but I just can't really get myself to Minnesota. I'm going to trust Reese Olson, who has a FIP of 2.96 on the season compared to Bailey Ober's at 5.3. Now, his expected FIP for Olson is at 4.2, but that's still a little bit better than Bailey Ober. So yeah, to me, this is a spot in which I look at this and I say, yeah, I can understand that maybe they're trying to sit here and make the argument that, the pitching for Minnesota should be the difference maker, and I can entertain that, but to me, this Minnesota offense is so bad that I don't really sit here and I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be obviously a tough spot for him. In fact, in terms of Reese Olson's history against them, one of his good games, in the past was, I think it was last year, he went like 7 innings pitched, 0 earned runs with 8 Ks. Bailey Ober also had a good game this year against Minnesota, so I understand that, but you know what? Detroit ends up winning that game. So yeah, give me Detroit for the plus money. I don't know. Maybe we're missing something here overall. In terms of the total, it's at 7.5 right now. That's a low line. Yesterday we did see 5 to 4, but that was with Jack Flaherty on the mound and even Joe Ryan, who Flaherty looked a little bit better than I would even expect. So I think I'm going to lean towards the under because of the fact that Minnesota's favored. So what I mean by that is that's telling me they think that Bailey Ober is going to deal, right? To some degree. So I think that the under's probably the move here. I'm just backing Reese Olson as well. In fact, one of the player props I kind of like here is looking at Reese Olson on his strikeouts. You can get his alternate over 6.5 strikeouts, so 7+ on FanDuel for +145 right now. His normal strikeout line, I do think, actually that might be his normal strikeout line if I'm not mistaken, right? And he's hit it in 2 of his last 3 against the Tigers here. To start the year, he's hit it in just 1 game, but Mets and Pittsburgh, 2 better teams, I guess, overall. Texas, he had 8 against in his last start. So yeah, for +140 something, I think that could be a nice little flyer, and it's a way to back the Tigers without saying, hey, you go win the game, right? But either way, I think the Tigers may be the move here. I can understand why Minnesota's favored because they like that, but if we look at Minnesota's batting versus right-handed pitchers, I can't back them whatsoever. All right, next up, we have St. Louis taking on Milwaukee here. Right now, St. Louis favored at -130 as Miles Mikolas on the mound for them with DL Hall on the mound for Milwaukee, who there's a massive batting discrepancy here, and Milwaukee definitely has the better bats going up against a righty here. St. Louis struggling. In fact, let's jump into the dashboard. You can see struggling against left-handed pitchers overall. A little bit better at home, but still struggling, whereas Milwaukee, it doesn't matter if they're on the road or anything like that, still looking good. And we're going to get a lot of fastballs from Mikolas, as well as sinkers and as well as sliders. Look at the 3 green spots for runs above average for Milwaukee. Fastball, sinker, and slider. So I do think Milwaukee's offense is going to be good today. And I don't think Seattle's St. Louis, I always get them damn confused. St. Louis will. So I'm going to lean towards Milwaukee. But yesterday's game kind of taught me that don't just trust that Milwaukee offense, right? Like that was a scoreless game for 3 innings, but 2-1 finish. I thought Milwaukee would come out there and score a bunch. So definitely something to note. Due to that, I'm also kind of considering the Nerfy in this spot. In terms of odds we're looking at there, you're looking at -105 over on BetMGM being your best spot. So I kind of like the Nerfy because, again, we saw a really low-scoring game yesterday. It's just going to be a matter if I can get to the window and place this, knowing I'm backing DL Hall in a sense, too, who is not really off to the best start. 7.11 ERA, 2.13 whip, 7.39 FIP. But they were against, the Mets, Seattle, whatever, that's fine. And Baltimore, like he hasn't faced the easiest of offenses. I mean, Seattle, sure, but Mets and Baltimore, not the easiest. So I don't want to cut him a break. I don't think he's a great pitcher. I think there's a pitching edge for St. Louis, but I think there's just a way better batting edge here for Milwaukee. In terms of the total, I'll lean towards the under, kind of just based on what we saw yesterday too. Like, didn't really seem like we'd be getting a bunch of runs out here. So I'm going to lean slightly towards the under, as well as, like I mentioned, the Nerfy. From a player prop perspective in this one here, I want to look at Bryce Terang over 1.5 bases, but it's more of like a flyer, you know what I mean? That'd be for +150. So that could be a good spot. I like it, like the matchup and everything, but +150 is probably only like a quarter unit play for us at this point. All right, first half of a doubleheader here. We have Chicago taking on Miami. This game got rained out a couple days ago, right? On the mound for Chicago is going to be Javier Carne Asada going up against Jesus Luzardo, who I'd say Jesus Luzardo is the better pitcher. But man, oh man, has he struggled so far this year. We could implement, because obviously it's a doubleheader, and on the mound for them next is going to be Shota Imanja going up against, I actually don't know if we know who's pitching for Miami in the second game just yet. Let's see if we have that up, actually. Rodri Munoz. Okay. I would say that this could be a spot in which it's just Chicago both ways. But again, I don't like betting double headers. The way that I said that we could bet them, last time we talked about them, was taking the underdog in both games, because it's so hard to beat a team twice, especially in the same day. But I don't think I'm looking at Miami and saying, hey, like, I want to trust you. Maybe it's worth it because they do have Luzardo on the mound in game 1, but after that, Frankie Muniz on the mound for them in game number 2. Don't know how I feel about that. So this is probably a game in which we stay away from both games, just because, again, weird things happen in doubleheaders. But there's two thoughts to entertain. You take the favorite in both games. You probably end up potentially winning both because they're favorites, or you kind of sack up and take the underdog because these are professional baseball players, and maybe they each win one, meaning if you take the underdog, you still make profit. But all that being said, I don't love betting doubleheaders, and I don't think we have this season, right? In terms of a total here, like I said, very wishy-washy answer on the sides there, but it is what it is. I just don't love it. In terms of a total here for game number 1, I almost want to look at, like, the way that Luzardo's been getting shelled, man. Like, I kind of want to entertain the over because of how good Chicago has been this season, especially against left-handed pitchers and at home. Like, they're crushing it. So I'll lean towards the over. We don't necessarily know exactly what we'll see in this series, obviously, just yet. So we shall see. And maybe we look at, I think, was it the only game they've played went over this line, right? So if that's any indicator of how this series will go, then we'll take the over in maybe potentially both games. Why did we not pull the trigger on this game yesterday? It was like the next game too to pull the trigger on for me, and I just didn't get there. But we have the Dodgers taking on the Mets yesterday. Mets win 9-4. On the mound for the Dodgers today is going to be Gavin Stone going up against Jose Butto, who Butto has looked pretty good. Like, I don't like backing him. I don't like him as a pitcher, but through 2 starts, it was against Detroit and Kansas City. Kansas City, obviously good offense. He's got a .75 ERA, .75 whip, an expected or a FIP of 1.95, and the expected FIP only goes to 2.8. So it's like still looking pretty good here. Gavin Stone, on the other hand, not looking as great. He has 3 starts on the season, and he's gone up against St. Louis, Chicago, the Cubs, and the Padres. So 2 of those teams, obviously, decent decent bats, I guess, but he's got a 6.14 ERA with a 1.6 whip. He's going to throw a lot of fastballs and a lot of fastballs and a lot of changeups. And those are two pitches that this Mets team should be able to tag. So I think, and the Mets have a better bullpen overall as well. I think this might be another spot where we kind of consider the Mets plus the 1.5. The only reason why I might not want to go that route and for full game is because the Mets used a lot of bullpen arms yesterday. 3 guys, so Ottavino, Raleigh, Garrett, as well as Dykeman all pitched 20 plus pitches except for Ottavino. So they didn't pitch the day before because, you know, obviously, or they just didn't. So I mean, there's that, but it is worth noting that a couple of their nice arms out of the bullpen in Raleigh and Ottavino did pitch a decent amount yesterday. So maybe we go first 5 for Mets or something like that. But at that point, you know, I really do like the 1.5, not necessarily the 0.5. So we'll see what we end up rolling with there. From a total perspective, I'm going to be on the over again, just due to the fact of what we saw yesterday. And I think that just the way that I'm kind of breaking this game down, it's based on the fact that this is a Mets offense that should be able to, you know, get to Stone and kind of cook up, right? I've not once said that Budo is going to shut down the Dodgers. They're crushing righties right now. So, yeah, overall, like, this should be a game that goes up and over. And if the Mets keep it close, it should be an over game as well. Looking at this from a player prop perspective, I like both pitchers in their strikeout lines. I went back and forth between saying that, but the Dodgers are greened out across the board against righties, right? But they're striking out the 5th most times against righties so far this season. So that gives me a little bit of just a little bit of confidence, I guess you could say. And neither one of these players has ever faced anyone on the other team in both Stone as well as Jose Budo. So I'm like sitting there and I'm like, maybe that's a good reason, right? Like, none of these batters have seen them before. Both their strikeout lines at 5.5, I want to say. And you can get some crazy money for Gavin Stone right now. Over 5.5. Let's see if we can get some updated odds here. Over 5.5 is, plus 168 on FanDuel, and then Jose Budo's is plus 134. So a couple plus money plays there. The reason why I kind of hesitated before I gave those props out is because that doesn't really correlate to an over type of a game now, does it, right? But swings and misses are things that can obviously happen here while they're still able to go out there and score a bunch of runs with big hits and whatnot. So there was a reason for a little bit of hesitation between giving those strikeout props, but I can't say I hate the value. All right, San Fran taking on Arizona. What a close game yesterday as the Diamondbacks win that one 17-1. Blake Snell just cannot really catch a break, though most of those runs kind of came late. I think it was 7th inning and 8th inning. They combined for like 11 runs or something like that. So worth noting that there. But overall, yeah, I mean, Blake Snell, I mean, you're not going to sit here and tell me he looked all that great, right? 9 hits through 4 2/3, 5 earned runs, only 3 strikeouts, ERA of 11.5. Dude's got to figure that one out. But what we're looking at today is, I'm going to take a peek at the road favorite here, the Diamondbacks. They do hit left-handed pitchers really well, and Kyle Harrison's on the mound for San Francisco today. He's going to predominantly throw nearly 73. Check this out in the dashboard, right? 73% of his pitches are going to be fastball. Right now, there's only 2 other teams in the entire league that are hitting fastballs in terms of runs above average per 100 than the Diamondbacks. His second pitch is going to be the changeup. There's only 1 team hitting worse. So luckily, this is a spot in which he's not even like predominantly throwing fastballs. It's like he's literally throwing so many fastballs that we can ignore the fact that they can't hit changeups. But I did want to kind of give you that information there. And Zach Gallen on the mound for Arizona, who I think we trust more than Harrison. He's got a 1.64 ERA this year, 1.14 whip, 1.9 FIP, just under 3 expected FIP as well. Guys, this dashboard is so clutch. Make sure you guys go check it out. Link in the pinned comment. But yeah, I'm going to take Arizona in this spot. Now, the one concern I have is just the fact that Arizona, yesterday is an anomaly, but they've been having trouble late in games scoring runs and everything like that, right? So I sit there and I'm kind of like, is this the first 5 play? It potentially could be because we can isolate Zach Gallen and Harrison, right? So I think that it's going to be a first 5, but somehow yesterday that showed that they can put up some runs late. Like, that's going to skew their stats for full games now for probably a few weeks. In terms of the total, we're looking at 8 right now. 17 runs yesterday. I think that that's not going to happen again, you know, if I had to guess. But again, like WRC Plus, they're the third best team, Arizona. Maybe it's a team total or just like an overall total for them today that I take a peek at. I don't think I have enough data in front of me to want to take an under. And from a player prop perspective, another plus money play, which you guys have been talking about. You like the plus money plays for player props and everything like that. So I'm just doing what I'm asked of. Obviously, we do have some player props that we throw in that are minus money all the time. But in terms of ones that I like to look for early in the morning, like today, is these value plays and for plus money plays, which Corbin Carroll over 1.5 bases, as well as his over hits, runs, and RBIs, which is juiced a little bit more. I like here. He's going up against Kyle Harrison, a lefty. Carroll's batting .235 on the season. Extra base hit percentage at 16. Meh, right? Well, he's been .333 against lefties. His extra base hit percentage jumps to just under 20%, and he's going up against Harrison, who has a .281 batting average against on the season against righty batters, or against every batter, right? Yeah, isolated to left-handed batters, nearly a .350 batting average against, .522 slugging. I mean, this is a spot for Corbin Carroll if I've ever seen one. So I like his over hits, runs, RBIs, as well as his over 1.5 total bases here in this spot. All right, guys, before we continue on with the slate, I do want to shout out the merch brand we have here on the channel, Fade Me. We're in the Fade Me embroidered hoodie right now, as well as one of our new hats that we just released. Pretty damn cool embroidered hat there. And one of our newly becoming best sellers here, the They Don't Boo Nobody's Vacate tee. We posted the video on Twitter of this one. People are like, I need to have that. This is a great shirt. It's kind of like just like a shut up, haters. I'm going to do my thing as we have a nice cocktail, watch the sun go down. But we got tons of new stuff over there. More stuff on the way as well. We have a few samples coming our way that I'm very, very excited about. But if you do want to support us and check out some great merch that we have on the channel, head over to fademe.store. You can use code MLB and you'll get a discount at checkout. Again, that's code MLB. Fademe.store. All that information will be in the pinned comment. A great way to continue supporting us if you do want to go above and beyond. Appreciate the hell out of it. My phone lights up when we get an order, and it makes my day when we get a bunch of orders in one day, because it's like, let's go. You guys are really riding with me, so I appreciate the hell out of that. Go check it out. Fademe.store. All right, Washington taking on Houston. I don't know if this is a pitcher I want to get in the way of right now. Ronald Blanco for Houston, .6 ERA. Obviously threw a no-hitter in his first start, so it's going to skew data a little bit, but he freaking was dealing after that too. He went another game without any runs allowed, and then last game he faced Texas, and 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 Ks, 3 walks. It's like a very normal line. It just looks terrible compared to a 0-0 like that. But he's got a .6 ERA, a .7 whip, a FIP of 2.96. But where it gets interesting, that's why I say I don't know if I want to fade him. His expected FIP today is a 4.7, which is actually higher than Trevor Williams on the side of Washington's expected FIP here. And both bats do look pretty good against right-handed pitchers. In terms of average, Houston's 5th ranked, Washington is 9th ranked. WRC Plus, Houston's 4th ranked, Washington is 8th ranked. And I think we may have missed our chance to pull trigger on Houston, which was yesterday, right? I leaned that way. We just didn't end up getting there. So this could be a spot in which I think the value play may be taking a peek at Washington. You can get them for +158 on FanDuel right now. I just don't think value is on Houston at -180 odds. You know what I mean? Like, I get that Ronald Blanco could go out there and deal, and he probably will, to be completely honest. He's going to throw a lot of fastballs. Washington, middle of the pack against fastballs. He's going to throw a lot of sliders. Washington, middle of the pack against sliders. The changeups, they hit very well. So if anything, this is pointing towards, well, Washington could kind of hang in there, right? Whereas, we do have a fastball pitcher in Trevor Williams and a slider pitcher. Houston, first in runs above average for fastballs this year, and then 3rd in sliders. So keep that in mind. That's why I'm saying, like, I think that because this is +158, that's where the value is in Washington. I'm not saying that they're, a lock to win. I guess what I'm essentially saying is their win chance. So if we do the odds converter here, right? If someone is a +158 chance to win in terms of odds, that means that they're a 38% chance to win probability wise. I just think Washington has a more like 45% chance to win today, meaning there's value in their +158. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not saying that, they have an upper hand here. I'm saying that the +158 is kind of a good spot in terms of, value. When it comes to a total here in this one, I don't think, I'm bragging the offenses and everything like that. I don't think that we can ignore the offenses, even though Blanco's on the mound, even though Trevor Williams has had some good looks as well this year. I'm going to lean towards the over 9 runs. I just feel like that's probably the better spot. And no major player props, surprisingly, because I do think that there's a decent amount of runs today. But again, like, both these pitchers should be able to, hang in there. I just don't really see the value in forcing any player props, especially given the fact that we bet both pitchers yesterday and luckily cashed. Let's not get greedy here. You know what I mean? I have Pittsburgh taking on Boston. Red Sox, they just keep surprising me. They win yesterday. It was yesterday, right? 8-1. Brian Bayo goes 6. Quinn Priester gets kind of tagged up. Obviously, I think Rafi is questionable here. Rafi Devers, no O'Neal still with the concussion. So there is something to note there for offense being potentially missed if Devers doesn't play. But, the dudes, they put up 8 runs yesterday, right? So for what it's worth, I think that this is a spot for the Red Sox. I just don't know if I saw them, if I'm going to be completely honest with myself, if I would have said that they win this series prior to, in Pittsburgh, right? So two of 3 would be a big deal for the Red Sox here. I probably would have had them pegged at, taking 1, which they already did. But the numbers are kind of looking like it should be a Red Sox game here. Versus right-handed pitchers on the road, they looked very, very good. And in fact, going up against Mitch Keller, who's obviously a good name here, not exactly the best numbers so far. He's going to throw tons of fastballs, cutters, where the Red Sox just kind of rank, cutter, not really, but fastball, sinker, they rank right around kind of mid overall. But this is kind of where I saw it. These numbers for Cutter Crawford, I do expect him to come back down to earth a little bit, but, the average WRC plus on ISO and OPS and slugging, it's all greened out for the Sox here in this spot. So for plus money, I think that could be a decent spot to take a peek. In terms of a total, I don't know. I'm going to lean towards the under. I don't know if the Red Sox have another 8 runs in their tank. And the Pirates, I'm not sure if I've exactly trusted offensively here now. So this sitting at 8, I could see this being like a 4-3 type of a game. So I'm going to lean towards the under, and then definitely not a player prop spot that I'm looking at here. All right, we can move pretty quick through this one. We have the Phillies taking on Chicago. The White Sox, they are massive favorites. The only way I see this going is putting them in some sort of a parlay. Wheeler on the mound, who's obviously probably going to deal. We call him Dealer Wheeler. Going up against Michael Soroka. That dude just trash. So that's why this line is where it is. You have a good pitcher going up against a bad pitcher. Both offenses are kind of meh to start the year, but give me Philadelphia on the money line, but it'd have to be in some sort of a parlay for sure. No way we can rationalize that. Total sitting at 7.5. I know I just talked about the offenses being kind of trash, but this is Michael Soroka. That really does suck so far, and I just can't trust. So it'd be kind of silly for me to look at him and say, hey, let's take an under. I don't think I look at the full game over, but Philadelphia's team total could easily be a spot in which we consider here. And based on that, it's probably a day to back Michael Soroka. Fade me. All right, Cleveland hosting Oakland here. This is another one in which we were that close to pulling the trigger on Oakland, so I guess that evens out with the Mets play, right? Good thing we didn't, because they lose 10-2 yesterday. Not exactly the best look there for them, but what do you expect, right? You have a team with a losing record going up against Cleveland, who is putting together a solid season here. On the mound for Cleveland today is going to be Logan Allen going up against who do we have for a pitcher today? Alex Wood going up against Alex Wood today for Oakland. This is probably, Alex Wood not looking tremendous to start the year. We can be honest about that. I wouldn't say Logan Allen is absolutely dealing either, but in his 24 plate appearances against this Oakland Athletics roster, he's got a 190 batting average against, an expected batting average today again of 164, strikeout rate of 30, expected WOBA of 217. It's probably the move to back Cleveland. The problem is that 160 is a lot of price to be paying for, them. But overall, this is a spot in which, there's a discrepancy in the pitching side of things, even though Allen has been kind of hit or miss, as well as the bullpen, as well as, batting versus lefties, which both these pitchers are lefties. So, with all that being said, I think we can get to Cleveland and kind of not overthink it here. Their bullpen should be pretty healthy too, as is Oakland's, but I'd take Cleveland's bullpen over it. So I guess that's a pretty quick one there, because, I wanted to kind of go back and forth, but why overthink a spot like this, right? Give me Cleveland. And then I guess the spot in which we could consider taking a peek here is the under, but that's tough because I'm not necessarily backing the starters. I'm backing the bullpen. I think that this is going to be a tough game. You know, if the starters even remotely are competent today, both these bullpens should have a decent time against the lineup. So I'll lean towards the under. I wish it was that 9 or 8.5 though, because I could see this being like a 5-3 game with one or two runs total in the 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. So I wish this was at 9, to be honest. I had Cincinnati taking on the Angels. I think I would be on Cincinnati today. I can see the Angels approach though, but this is a Cincinnati team that has won, this dating back years, so take it for what it's worth. 6 straight against the Angels here. They win 7-1 yesterday, and even yesterday I was like, not exactly all that confident in that, but Cincinnati was just like, yeah, no, we'll take this one. And even though they're down some bats in their lineup, right, still being favored at -124, I think kind of shows what the books think is going to happen. Graham Ashcraft on the mound has probably, undebatably had a better start to the season than Patrick Sandoval. Actually, you could definitely debate that. They both had, a few good starts and then maybe one spot in which they didn't look all that great. So I guess you could say it's more of a toss-up, but nonetheless, I think that there's a batting discrepancy here versus left-handed pitchers. Cincinnati will take them against lefties here. Third best ISO, 6th best slugging, on-base percentage and OPS, top 10, WRC plus of 11th, whereas the Angels kind of just middle of the pack against righties here, and Graham Ashcraft throwing from the right side, and he has a decent track record. Actually, both these guys do against the opposing team, so this may also be a spot in which we take a peek at the under, just maybe a first 5 under as well, just because I do think both these players have a good chance at kind of shutting down the opposing offense. And then from a player prop perspective, we did dig into this game, but honestly to no avail, so no player props really for me here. Kansas City taking on Baltimore, a super interesting matchup here. Just due to the fact that we've seen, these two teams battle it out, I guess, overall, right? So earlier in the year, Baltimore takes 2 of 3. Now, second time they've seen each other, Kansas City takes number 1, game number 1 here. And now we have Cole Ragans on the mound going up against Corbin Burns. Ragans had a decent strikeout outing against Baltimore, a few, when did they play? Did he pitch against them this season? Aha, this brain does work. Yes, he pitched in that series April 3rd here. 6 1/3 pitched, 7 strikeouts, no earned runs, no runs at all, no home runs, averaged 14 pitches per inning. So there's a nice little spot for him and a nice little look for him, right? Already seeing this lineup. Whereas that same day, Burns went up against Kansas City, pitched 5 2/3, 9 hits, only 3 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. So who got the upper hand last time? I'd say Kansas City. Now, my concern would be that this Baltimore offense is not really batting lefties all that well. They're a good offense, but 17th in average, 17th in WRC plus, 24th in on-base percentage, compared to Kansas City, who is a little bit better. Top 10 WRC plus, top 10 OPS, top 10 slugging, top 5 ISO. So maybe this is a good spot to take a chance on Kansas City for plus money. I almost hate the fact that Kansas City won yesterday. You know what I mean? I'd almost rather them in a bounce back spot, but you can definitely go ahead and back Corbin Burns if you want. But I think I might be looking at Kansas City and Cole Ragans in this spot. In terms of a total, that's where I'll give credit where it's due to the pitching here, but I'd only look at the first 5 under. These bullpens not exactly impressing me as of late, so I'd lean towards the under if we could take a peek at it in the first 5. Then I kind of want to get real spicy and say, hey, screw it. Let's go Cole Ragans over 6.5 strikeouts. He had 7 last time they played. But this is a decent Baltimore. I don't want to start shitting on this Baltimore offense too much. You know what I mean? But that would be a player prop lean for plus money today. Next up, we're looking at Atlanta taking on Texas. On the mound for Atlanta is Charlie Morton. On the season, he's got a 5.29 ERA, a 1.3, FIP of 4.2. Going up against Nate Eovaldi, who obviously I really like if you guys watch the show. 2.9 ERA, 1.01 whip with a 3.8 whip and a 3.82 expected whip. Now, both offenses are going to be good against right-handed pitchers. We don't really need to break that down. Atlanta probably having somewhat of a slight edge, But to me, there is a chance that, you know, Texas pulls this one out. We just saw yesterday's game, 8-3 win for Atlanta. Atlanta's kind of starting to get hot now. You know, they take 2 of 3 against Miami, whoop-de-doo, but then they sweep Houston in Houston, and now they're at home taking on Texas. They beat them 8-3. So maybe it's a freight train you don't want to get in front of right now, and that could ultimately stop me from wanting to pull the trigger on it. But I think I want to trust Nate Eovaldi here and give me Texas here on the plus money for the first 5 innings. Don't want to involve the bullpen, as that Texas bullpen certainly coming back down to earth. But first 5 money line for some plus money, maybe even taking them first 5, you know, as a run line plus 0.5 to you know, prevent that, or to get that tie type of thing. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big Eovaldi guy. You guys, it's maybe I'm blinded by the light, but I'll take him over Charlie Morton in this spot in terms of an edge. In terms of the total, this is tough because you have 2 really good pitchers on the mound, but these offenses are so damn good. And maybe if it gets to the bullpen, we see some late runs. So I'll lean towards the over. I just don't know if runs are going to come by early and often. I just think towards the end of the game, we might be able to blink and be like, oh, there's a decent amount of runs on the board now. So I'll lean towards the over. I'm going to skip through this game because we kind of already talked about it when we talked about the first Cubs and Marlins game of the day. All right, Colorado taking on Seattle. They were going to play yesterday. That game got moved. Now we're looking at a game in which Luis Castillo is going off against Dakota Hudson, and it's like, okay, obviously there's a massive pitching advantage for you know, for Luis Castillo, but you're almost kind of hoping for some progression from him because he hasn't looked like stellar, you know what I mean? But I still think that they're going to be the move. The problem being, we had them at -130 yesterday, right? And that was with who was on the mound? Hancock. Now with the day off, Castillo's ready to go, and they're -180. So we probably don't end up being able to pull the trigger on anything here, but I might fade the altitude still. We might take a peek at the under here. You got to prove that you can get the bats on ball before I'm going to go out there and say, hey, let's pull the trigger on the over. Okay, so give me the under in this spot. From a player prop perspective, actually not a player prop, one other thing I like is taking a peek at the under 0.5 in the first inning, aka Nerfy. +110 on ESPN. This thing's -105 on most sportsbooks. Still don't mind it at -105, but I could see that being the case. I don't really think that, you know, we're going to have that much issue with Colorado getting to Castillo, especially in their first at bat. And we've seen, you know, the Mariners offense just struggle, right? So I think that there's a little bit of value here in terms of what we're seeing. On the season, Seattle's covered the under in their first inning, or the Nerfy, in 74% of games. Colorado's on the other side of things, not all that great, but Dakota Hudson has hit the under for the Nerfy, or so catch the Nerfy, in 2 of 3. So there could be a good look there, whereas Castillo, even if you want his splits, 3 of his last 4 starts here, so this year, have hit the Nerfy. So kind of like that spot as well. That's a Nerfy for plus money. We may be able to entertain that. Last game of the slate here. If you guys made it this far in the video, go ahead and comment 36. And with that 36, I want you to let me know your athlete that you think of immediately that wore number 36. Okay, I want to see that. I'm a big Celtics fan, and Marcus Smart kind of stamped that into my brain. There's plenty others out there that I'll think about, but let me know when you hear 36, what athlete jumps to brain. I love kind of reading these types of comments. But game number, what is it, 16 here? We're looking at the San Diego Padres going up against the Toronto, almost said Raptors because I said Marcus Smart, the Toronto Blue Jays here. Yesterday's game was a 5-1 win for Toronto. In this spot here, we have pitching for San Diego. We don't have data on this year, but Randy Vasquez going up against Jose Berrios. He's just been like filthy as of late. San Diego's offense is definitely going to be the thing to watch here in this spot, but if their offense doesn't click against Berrios, I'd expect another win for Toronto here. So I'll lean towards Toronto, but I can definitely say that, yes, this is probably a spot in which, you know, we're going to have to make sure that, you know, he's on, because if he's not, San Diego's offense should be able to get to the right-handed pitcher. But I expect decent amount of runs in this game as well. Like Toronto, again, going up against Randy Vasquez, should be able to put up some numbers here as well. Right-handed pitcher, they've struggled a little bit against right-handed pitchers, but they're getting some guys on base. So hopefully they can bring them around here. In terms of a player prop, this is a big-time flyer, okay, guys? So understand that. But Alejandro Kirk, over 1.5 bases. Also don't mind his over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. But this is a -180 play over on FanDuel. So Yeah, obviously we're kind of taking a swing for the fences here in this one, but in his last 3 games, he's had over 2 or more bases in 2 of those 3 here, and he's batting a right-handed pitcher today. He bats better against righties. Still not all that great, but better against righties. And again, it's a value play. Like I said, plus 175. It's moved already over on FanDuel. It's a plus 140 play on most sportsbooks. DraftKings minus plus 145. Caesars plus 143. So, you know, you have plenty of comparable sportsbooks that are saying this is more likely than FanDuel saying it's likely, so we can potentially capitalize on that. But yeah, I like a lot of runs. I like the over. That Kirk play, definitely a long shot, but if Berrios is going today, I do think that there's a chance that Toronto can win this one just like they did yesterday. And guys, that's going to wrap for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. These videos are with NBA and this going. We are grinding our asses off here. So just know the work is being put in. I want the picks to be good. I want to be entertaining for you guys. I want to be able to have some good production value, meaning camera, lighting, all that good stuff. So hope you guys do appreciate all that. If you do, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. All right? Peace out.